So, lately I've been editing from my apartment non-stop. Then I suddenly decided to disappear into a cabin somewhere in Canada. After that I go to the office for some productivity because I left behind my schedule. And this one feels like I rented professional studio for Netflix documentary. Except none of that was real. This is real. And let's see how to change it. So, first of all, I'm shooting this using the very convenient Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. You can check your current settings under Project Settings and Color Management. By default, my color space is Rec 709. But to get more accurate and flexible colors for grading, we will need to convert the footage properly. Open the Effects panel and search for Color Space Transform. Drag the color space transform effect onto your clip. For footage shot on Samsung S24 Ultra in 30 fps with HDR10+, these are the settings I will use. Input color space Rec 2020, input gamma is ST2084, output color space P3 DCI, and output gamma is gamma 2.4. You can also apply the color space transform inside the Fusion page. Press Shift plus space and search for color space transform and add the node. Basically it works the same way. By default it inherits the project settings for the input and output color space. What's the difference when I leave the default output color space enabled? It's not a huge difference. And you can always fine-tune the saturation later. But I will stick with Rec 2020 for the input and P3 DCI for the output since that matches my monitor's color profile. Now let's remove the green screen background. Open the effect panel again and search for 3D Keyer. Drag the effect onto your clip, then enable OpenFX overlay so we can start selecting the background color. Use the picker tool and drag across the green screen until the entire background becomes black in the matte view. Try to be as precise as possible. Because of lighting conditions and the distance from the screen, you will probably still notice some green spill around the edges of the subject, especially around the hair or clothing. To clean it up, adjust the Dispill slider and, if needed, fine-tune the matte finesse settings. Now that the color space is fixed and the background has been removed, I will copy these effects and paste them onto the rest of the clip since they were all shot under the same conditions. Next, we need to match my lighting and skin tones to each background image so everything feels believable. For every background, I will do some basic color grading. I like separating my adjustments into different nodes for white balance, exposure, contrast, saturation, and skin tone corrections. If necessary, I will also add extra effects. First, adjust the white balance. Then use the gamma and leaf controls to fine-tune the midtones and shadows. After that, adjust the contrast. For saturation, I will mainly focus on the red and the skin tone ranges using color slice. Now I will copy this node structure over the next clip so we can keep the same workflow. The white balance will remain mostly consistent across all the shots. For the second clip, let's start with the exposure. We mainly need to lower the midtones, shadows and highlights slightly. Then refine the contrast. Inside the skin tone adjustment, I will reduce the blue tones just a little bit, not too much. Now I want to add some realistic shadows around my shoulders and head to match the lighting from the background. Maybe I will bring the shadows back up slightly in the exposure settings. Draw a rough mask shape. Then soften it by increasing both the inside and outside blur radius so it blends naturally. Next, I will create another shadow mask on my face using a parallel node. Resize the mask and lower the gain value. Then track the movement. Now create another parallel node, copy the previous mask, reduce its size and increase the gain slightly. This will simulate light coming from the fill light. For the third clip, I will copy the color correction from the first shot because the exposure is already very similar. Lower the gamma a bit, adjust the contrast, and shift the skin tone slightly toward green and light blue to match the reflected light coming from the walls. Then make a few final exposure adjustments. Now I will copy the grays from the second clip to the fourth one. Since we don't need an extra shadow mask here, I will remove these parallel nodes. For the exposure, reduce the gamma and lift slightly. Then increase the gamma a little. Adjust the contrast. For saturation, I will boost the red and skin tones just a little bit. Inside the skin tone node, I will push the color slightly toward orange and yellow. Maybe raise the highlights a little more, and I think that looks good. Now we need transitions between the background changes, but I want the subject cutout itself to switch instantly. So let's add the zoom in transition and set the duration to 8 frames. Then I will copy and paste the same transition between the other background changes. For the sound design, I will use superhero landing sound effect for the first and third transition, and deep airy whoosh for the second one to make the scene changes feel more impactful. And we use chroma keying to remove the green screen from the footage, which allowed us to replace the background with any environment or visuals we wanted, and added sound effects to make each transitions feel more dynamic and immersive.